This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Yeah, people don't believe. I posted a video about Dorian's cycle. People don't believe. I mean, he was using like less than a gram and a half, I think, total. Like something like 750 test. I think he was taking three cc's of Sustanon a week. I think what I read, it was like test, primo, and D-ball. I think that's what he ran.
Yeah, it's funny because until Fuad came out with RBP in 2018 or 2019, whenever it was, and his goal with RBP was let's have real pros on here talking about their cycles so people don't listen to Tony Huge. That
Yeah.
Fuad's whole business model was based on we have to do something to prevent people from following Tony Huge because Tony Huge is the only one actually telling people anything. And people believe Tony Huge, so they're going to kill themselves.
Yeah.
So like Fuad's whole media empire was built on the idea of altruistically protecting mankind from Tony Huge.
Yeah, that's awesome. His stuff was really good. I mean, it's was the best out there at the time.
And now
I did.
now no matter who he has on, they never actually go through the X's and O's as he calls it. What is your training? How many of this? How many of this? How many of this? What's your diet? What's your cycle? That was the whole premise of RBP, is getting different pros on and having them go through what are you doing? Training, nutrition, and cycle. And now no one does it. They talk about, and it's kind of like a fluid interview about the person. They never get to the nuts and bolts that lets you actually matrix it out and say, out of these top 10 bodybuilders at the Olympia, 8 out of 10 of them are using 80% identical cycles. 8 out of 10 of them are using 80% identical diets. 8 out of 10 of them are using 80% identical training. So that if you were to amalgam these training, nutrition, and diet out of all of these people and average it all out, you would have a 60% accurate Olympia prep.
You know, I mean, people always get disappointed to hear what the top guys are taking. It's you know as well as I do. It's not what they think. It's usually just basic shit.
It's no different that everyone's seen Dave Palumbo's off-season program, and everyone's seen the basic cut program. So for those of you watching, this is not an endorsement. This is for educational purposes only. But the typical pro bodybuilder uses less than the typical amateur.
Yep.
Because they have smarter coaches and they're genetically gifted. They don't need it. And they have the blood work to know that they're in danger if they overdo this. Luckily, since Fuad's podcast and the British coaches have bastardized the black model and then mass produced it, everyone's on a safer path than ever before. But for the most part, the old way was 750 test, 600 EQ, and that's pretty much it, with some GH, usually between 4 and 8 units of GH. Now, modern is to use primo, is use maybe 400 test and anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 of primo, or a blend of primo and master, and of 4 to 6 units of GH. It's more moderate than before. The cut cycles used to be 350 a week test, 350 a week trend, 350 a week masteron, 350 a week Winstrol, and a month out you drop the test. That's it. And
Yep.
That's pretty much it. And when I say 350 a week, they say 100 every other day. I always think it's smarter to go 50 a day. That's it.
Yep.
So a very simple way of doing this would be 75 test or 60 test every day, and basically 100 to 200 of DHT every day in the off season, using 4 to 6 units of GH a day. And then before a prep, you're using basically 50 a day of anandrolone, basically tren, which I think is too much, but I'm saying that's the old way of doing it. I think a safer way of doing it would be 10 milligrams a day of tren. 10 milligrams a day of tren, probably 20 to 50 milligrams a day of Anavar, depending how close you are to the show, and probably about 50 to 100 a day worth of a DHT. And that's pretty much it. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. And then the idea would be you start at almost nothing and you ramp up throughout the off season until you start to fry something. Or if you happen to know your ceiling doses, you get up close to your ceiling dose without exceeding your ceiling dose. And then you cool off, go through a recovery phase. And then when the recovery phase is done and you've washed off the fatigue and inflammation, you start your contest prep and you start ramping up again on short esters until the show. And then after the show, you go through another recovery phase until your blood markers are good. And then you start your next off season. So it might be 6 months of build, a month of cool off, 4 months of cut, a month of cool off, and then you're on to the next year.
That's exactly how I do it.
It's a very simple periodization. 6 of grow, a month cool off, 4 months of cut, a month cool off.
Exactly what I do, man. And pretty similar stuff.
You figure out what your maintenance volume is, the minimum amount of volume you need to hang on to tissue. You run maintenance volume in your cool off phases.
Yep.
You run double maintenance volume in your growth phase, ramping up to triple maintenance volume with frequent deloads. And then for your cutting phase, you run 1.5 times your maintenance volume. So the tier is you use the least amount of gear and the least amount of volume when you're maintaining. Then the next phase is more gear and 1.5 times the volume while you're cutting. And then the most is the most amount of gear that you can use without hurting yourself in any way, plus double your volume or triple your volume of your maintenance in your grow phase.
I mean, that's almost to a T what I do, Todd.
And you use intensity modifiers on the 3rd or 4th week or 5th week of a mesocycle in your growth phase, and then you deload. So you'll do, like, let's say you're doing 2 sets for this body part twice a week. Then week 2 is 3 sets for the body part twice a week. Then week 3 is 4 sets for that body part twice a week. Then you go up to 4 sets with an intensity modifier, like a forced rep or a drop set or a rest pause on the final set twice a week. And then by that point, you should deload. And the deload is 1 set. So you really, when you look at the deload, is the first week, the 0 week. You go 1 set, 2 set, 3 set, 4 set, intensity modifier on the 4th set, deload.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I do. That's the RP model.
Right. Exactly. That is the RP model. Dr. Mike Israetel is the one who started this. And it seems so clear cut. It's very hard to do, but it's very easy to program. Once you're actually in it, you're going to want to auto-regulate. And the difference between this and the DC training that people like Dante had grew DC training out of Dorian, what I've noticed is I gained strength with DC training, and I was also frequently injured. And I was spending $600 a month on massages. With RP training, I'm not as strong, but I'm never hurt, and I don't have to spend any money on massages.
Yeah, that's 100%, man. I was always fucking beat up when I was doing a hit style training. Constantly hurt my elbows, my arm, my shoulders, everything. This RP style, I've grown like crazy on it, and I'm using less intensity, and it just works so much better. Right.
Quality of life is higher too. I don't see any difference in the growth rate. I grow so incredibly slow. I can't actually track changes in my growth rate. I notice strength progress is lower, but my quality of life is better. I'm not in pain going up and down the stairs for 10 months straight. I'm in no pain going up and down the stairs. Or maybe one day after hack squats, my knee would hurt.
Yeah, whereas, same deal.
Yeah,
That's the
and then
best my joints have ever felt.
yeah, and it's like maybe this is because I'm old, like that I basically did the DY style training for 10 years, and then when I was 42, I started getting hurt. So I'm frequently enough to where I spent more time of the year in injury and less time productive. So it no longer was worth the squeeze, and I had to switch to RP style volume training. But doing RP volume training, I'm almost never hurt.